All right, everybody. Welcome back into the Auburn Live Modcast. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Got the whole crew here as Auburn gets ready for Samford this weekend. 2-0 Tigers getting ready for homecoming, which is always weird. Third week of the season being homecoming. It used to be later in the year, and ever since they moved it to earlier, it's odd. But at least they are literally coming home. How's everybody doing? Pink, Jeffrey?
Rolling with the punches.
Hanging in there. I've been trying to fight this cold for like 2 weeks now.
My voice it's lingering, dude. I had it.
You got the vid?
Do what?
So you got the vid or what?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Who knows?
You'll never know unless you go get this.
It'll be all right.
Man, I'm not doing that anymore.
No, we'll be all right.
All right, let's get into we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about some topics, but let's do prize picks as always. You just start things off. Great sponsor of the show. Let's get into some prize picks.
Hey, I hit big last week.
Did you?
I did.
Me too.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
I got the top 25, Jeffrey, is what I got last week.
Interesting. Did you play in the combos?
I did, and I did a sixer. So
I did a threer. I guess that's the threesome. Hey, Prize Picks, though, if you're just now joining us, man, you don't know what Prize Picks is. It is it's a skill-based game, man. You're picking more or less on some of these projections from the Prize Picks guys. So they're going to project Bo Nix pass for more or less than 265.5. You pick more or less. In Alabama, you got to play the combo squares, but everywhere else, man, you can pick just more or less. All the first-time users, especially from this show, Prize Picks is going to match the first $100 deposit you put in there. So if you put in $100, Prize Picks is going to give you another $100. So you'll have $200 to start with. Use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word, War Eagle. Go to PrizePicks.com, or Prize Picks on your app. The app's where I use it. War Eagle, all one word, all caps. And then let's say, how does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and again, this is for everybody outside of Alabama. Alabama pick they've got combo squares you can choose from. It's basically 2 players, so it'd be Bo Nix and Peyton Thorne, or whoever they have that week. But you pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go more or less than their Prize Picks possession, you can Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 25 times your money on an entry. I know I hit on a threesome last week, and I think it paid. There's no telling what yours paid if you're doing a sixer. It's like a parlay, man, if you've ever been to Vegas or anything like that. But it's a lot of fun, man. We like to play it here this week. I was looking at some of the projections for this week, Justin, and I'm looking at combo squares. But let me pack out of. They got like Shedeur Sanders. His more or less is 341.5 passing yards. Jaden Daniels. I'm sorry, Jaden Lewis is an Auburn commitment. They had. I tell you what, there were some passing yards. Florida, Tennessee, LSU, Mississippi State. Those are the 2 big games in the SEC this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And let's see. Will Rogers, the Mississippi State quarterback, more or less 226.5. Here you go. Graham Mertz. Now, listen, what are we expecting from Florida and Tennessee? Graham Mertz, his passing yards projection, 210.5 against Tennessee. I feel like Florida's going to be playing from behind a lot. I guess I haven't watched Tennessee. I watched Florida against Utah, and they looked.
I'll give a shout to former teammate of mine, Austin Armstrong, who's the defensive coordinator at Florida. I thought they made some big adjustments.
Okay.
Second half of the Utah game and didn't let them score. So Florida's defense might be pretty good. They got some of these guys that Auburn recruited, Scooby Williams and Shamar James, that are really good. So they may hang around with them. And I'm not 100% sold on Joe Milton as Tennessee's quarterback yet. I think he's pretty good, but I want to see a little bit more from him. So I think it might be a close game.
Okay. All right. Graham Mertz is 210.5. His passing yards. Joe Milton, you mentioned him, Cole, Tennessee quarterback, 254.5 passing yards. Bo Nix is another projection. I thought that's interesting. I think he's passed for more than 300. He's at 284.5. They are playing Hawaii. So some good projections in there. This Prize Picks this week, man. Y'all go check it out. Prize Picks. Go look it up on the App Store. As I said, use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word. That'll get you a $100 match up to your first in your first deposit. So go check it out. Prize Picks, man. We'll check back with our and listen. If you'll wait till about Friday afternoon, maybe Saturday morning, some of these later games on Saturday night, their projections will start coming in. You might see a Peyton Thorne, you might see a Damari Austin or a Jarquez Hunter or something like that. So keep an eye on the Auburn guys come Saturday morning. Check back around maybe lunchtime just to be safe.
They need to have one on how many times do Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford swap.
Oh, God, please. Yeah, good luck predicting that. Yeah, you mentioned Florida, Tennessee this weekend. That's a night game on ESPN at 6 o'clock. That'll probably be interesting. I mean, Florida's losses to Utah, who's a good team, and Tennessee looked very meh against Austin Peay last weekend. So I think we'll know a lot more about those two teams. And then you got, you mentioned Georgia, South Carolina, 2:30.
Oh yeah, that's the one I like.
Oh yeah, that's
the best game in the SEC.
Yeah, probably the best game. A little bit of back and forth there. Kirby always looking for motivation. It's just like that.
Of course.
South Carolina. I mean, it's so stupid. I think the South Carolina player made a comment about tough places to play. Not even this week. It was like during media days or something, and he didn't mention Georgia. And somebody asked him about that in the press conference, and Kirby mentioned the kid by name. I was like, well, our fans are, he kind of challenged his fans, but I guess we'll see 2:30. I guess our fans have got to go, show up and kind of. But that guy's amazing. Number one team in the country, and Kirby's always looking for ways to act disrespected. And then you got,
what's funny, Jason? Yeah, Hugh Freeze, when he was in his presser earlier in the week, kind of downplayed the Jaden Ott comment. You remember when he did that? Yeah, whatever. We don't get too into that. And then Eugene Asante comes up right after him and goes, yeah, Coach Freeze got in my face and was like, man, you heard what he said, right? I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, he said he mentioned it before the game, but, I don't know. That stuff's fine. You still got to go execute. I think Auburn executed. I mean, I don't think they stopped the run because Jaden Ott made some comments. But LSU, Mississippi State, 11 a.m. That's in Starkville. Mississippi State is a 9.5-point underdog in that one. And then Missouri plays Kansas State. That is in Missouri. Missouri hosts Kansas State, so Missouri's got an opportunity there. Alabama goes to South Florida, really odd non-conference game. Alabama hosts Texas, and then they go to South Florida. Very rare road non-conference game of that caliber. Normally Alabama's playing Texas or Wisconsin or somebody big, so it's kind of an interesting game there at 2:30 on ABC in Tampa. A&M hosts La Monroe. Vanderbilt goes to UNLV. Of course, Auburn hosts Samford. Ole Miss and Georgia Tech play in Oxford. That's a 6:30 kick. That might be an interesting game. Ole Miss's offense is pretty good. Arkansas, BYU, that's in Arkansas, 6:30 on Saturday night. And then Akron goes to Kentucky. So we've got one more week of these games. Conference play for a few teams, and then everything will get cranked up more next week, I think.
BYU Arkansas is a sneaky one. I picked BYU on the board. If y'all didn't see that, the upset of the week.
Did Arkansas? I remember that game last year. Arkansas went there and they went there and won, right? Did Arkansas go there last year?
Yeah, it was close. I think KJ Jefferson had a huge game against them. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
I'm curious to see Georgia Tech. I mean, see if they've made any progress with their new direction. They got a chance to show that they're kind of doing something there. But yeah, I think that Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee. I think South Carolina's get smoked. I think from what you saw, that offensive line against North Carolina, Spencer Rattler's been sacked like 9 times or something in 2 games. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's a lot. I think Georgia's defense is going to just make his life hell on Saturday.
But believe it or not, Georgia, a guy that I've met a few times, Brooks Austin, that covers Georgia. I follow him on Twitter. He's always at the recruiting events. He's actually done a breakdown on Georgia's pass rush and said, that has been the weakest point of their team so far, which that is mind-blowing to me, that they have not had a good pass rush so far. I bet they will have it against South Carolina if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think so too. That one and the Florida-Tennessee game will show a lot between those two teams. All right, let's talk about Auburn-Samford a little bit. Obviously, Auburn coming off this win over Cal that was very uninspiring, but a win is a win. As Auburn goes 2-0, that's what Hugh Freeze said on Monday. At the end of the day, I hope you're right that we're 2-0, and that's all that matters. let's talk about, I think, what the biggest storyline is, and that's a combination of the quarterback play and the play calling. But I think the quarterback play is an interesting topic. So on Monday, Hugh Freeze says, point blank, I'm not happy with what happened on Saturday in terms of offensive production, but specifically, I'm not happy with how the shuffling of the quarterbacks looked. Now, he's like, Robbie needs his touches. He said that over and over again, but he just wasn't happy with how that went. I don't know that they have a solution yet. He said, we got to figure that out. But what happened Saturday is not good. He came back on Wednesday and he repeated that, but he also had some more interesting comments. And they were, one, Robbie Ashford and Holden Geriner are, quote, nipping at the heels of Peyton Thorne. I thought that was an interesting comment. The second part of that is he said, hopefully Peyton Thorne starts to take control of the offense. Those two things he didn't say on Monday. And it kind of perked my ears up a little bit, whether that was a challenge to Peyton Thorne through the media or, I think Freeze has been pretty transparent looking at what's happened on the field. And you think about what he said, I think he's been pretty honest. And I spoke to somebody inside the building that kind of said the similar thing, like Robbie and Holden do some good things. Peyton knows the offense best, but the gap isn't huge right now between Peyton. Basically, like Peyton needs to relax, get some confidence, feel like he's got some freedom and go play. And maybe that's, he's just, and that goes into a lot of things, rotation, maybe that's affecting him. You think about what Freeze said in the offseason, why he named Thorne the starter when he did, because Peyton went out in that first scrimmage and felt pressured, and he pressed and he didn't play well. And Freeze was like, I need to name this guy the starter so he'll relax. And it feels like that's kind of what's going on now, is Peyton's still not completely relaxed. Jeffrey, what do you make of this entire situation, those comments, getting the best out of Peyton Thorne, rotating these guys? Like, what's just sort of your thoughts on this thing 2 weeks in?
I have always loathed the two quarterback system. I don't know that Saturday against Cal was the most we had seen of a two quarterback system. Now, when I say two quarterback system, I'm talking about swapping them in and out depending on what down it is in the middle of the field. If it's 3rd and 4, 4th and 3, we saw Robbie coming in. I hate that. If you don't have a quarterback, if Peyton Thorne can't get you in a play and run a play and execute a play that can get you the first down, he's not the guy. I hate that. I understand the importance of getting Robbie touches. He's a fantastic athlete. We saw that the Robbie from the Iron Bowl a year ago, that guy, he needs touches. I get that. It's just when and where. I mean, yeah. And the difference between Robbie in the Iron Bowl and Robbie now is that Robbie in the Iron Bowl had the freedom to throw the football. He was a threat, both running and passing. Most of his runs in that Iron Bowl were drop back pass, takeoff running. So there was defense respecting the pass game. He comes in now against the Cal. Of course, UMass couldn't do anything about it. It would be like you and me going out there trying to tackle him. But Cal had a little bit better athletes that could stuff him. And I think he had, 8 yards?
Yep.
8 yards rushing?
Yep.
Yeah. On 4 carries? Yeah. I hate it. I feel like the Samford game, you ought to come out of the Samford game knowing whether or not, forget Robbie and forget Holden. I'm putting Peyton Thorne in there, and I'm turning him loose. And I'm going to learn one thing or the one of the two things. Either Peyton Thorne's my guy or he's not. But you've got to have that decision made by the time you go to College Station. Turn him loose. Let him hey, listen, sorry, Samford, you just happen to be the one. If it's 59-0, I'm sorry. But we got to get better. If I'm Hugh Freeze, and we've got to get better. So I'm going to throw him 35 times this game. I've got to get him ready. Leave Robbie on the bench. You know what Robbie can do. You don't know what Peyton Thorne can do. Put him in there, turn him loose, throw the hell out of his arm. His arm ought to be sore until Tuesday. Get rid of this. Robbie can help you. He can help you in certain situations. Absolutely. He can. but don't force it, and it's feeling forced. There you go. Turn him loose.
I noticed y'all both used the word freedom when talking about it. And to me, Peyton Thorne, okay, you named him the starter, but I don't think he has freedom. I wouldn't call it that.
Well, it feels free. I guess for me, it was like, does he feel like he's got freedom? I don't know how much freedom is it. Does he feel like he's got freedom?
No, you can watch him play. He's tight as can be. He doesn't feel free. He feels like he's fixing to get changed out for Robbie and to get thrown back in on the third down.
Right.
And it happened. All right. I wrote this morning, what to expect from Auburn's offense. I wrote Ashford versus Thorne. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a battle going on right there because it's just human nature. If you're a quarterback, especially, you have the mentality that says, I want to be the guy. There's not many quarterbacks out there, and it's not wrong, in my opinion, to have that confidence that go, I'm good with sharing this role. I don't care if they celebrate. I don't care if they do their little handshake or whatever after a touchdown. They're not comfortable, neither one of them. It's very obvious by watching them, okay? I think the key stat from the Cal game, and I wrote this in there as well, was that the 2 red zone – of course, Robbie looked good in the red zone against UMass, but the 2 red zone scores came from leaving Peyton Thorne in the game. All right? It's not a question for me if Peyton Thorne can do this. He's thrown for over 6,000 yards in his career against pretty good competition in the Big Ten. It's not like he's coming from Samford. All right, so I know he can do it. I've seen him do it. He's thrown good balls. He's had success doing that. He's been dangerous with the football and done some bad things too, but he's done enough to make me go, all right, this is not his first rodeo. What's going on here? And I think it's exactly what Hugh Freeze said about him in that scrimmage. He's pressing. That's what he's doing right now. If it feels forced, it's because it is.
Yeah, and you look at that Cal game, 55 total snaps offensively. Well, I mean, Robbie had 3 pass attempts, 4 carries. That's 7, and so 20% of those 55 snaps went to Robbie. And so what's interesting about Freeze's comments was, and he knows better than we do, which is why I guess what he said Wednesday was kind of interesting. Peyton Thorne arrived in the summer. He didn't go through spring. He arrived in the summer, immediately has to dive in to the playbook and the offense and figure that out, figure out personnel, goes through a fall camp. And then now he's played 2 games in which he played, half a game against UMass. And then he plays 40 to 45 snaps is all he got in that Cal game. He threw 14 passes.
That's only three down the field.
Yeah, that's it. So so his experience arrives in the summer. We're 2 games in, and of those 2 games, he hasn't even played full games. There's so much growth that has to happen with him that I think will happen, that I was just a little surprised that Freeze was – not that Freeze is hard on him, because he's said things that have been hard on him. And he said, like, hey, look, I love Peyton. Like, I think I'm going to praise him. I think he's going to be really honest, and I don't think Peyton has an issue at all with how Freeze coaches him. I think Freeze is just straight up. But the comment about Holden Gerner and Robbie nipping at his heels, and then the comment he even said later, this thing will work itself out over the next few weeks. I mean, everything he said on that teleconference combined with what he said on Monday, everything he said made it sound like maybe Peyton's the guy, but we're going to find out. And I'm thinking, man, he just got here and he's had no time to really grow and get better. I don't understand. That criticism seemed a little bit far. I think Peyton Thorne's going to get better. I was just surprised to hear that almost sound like a continued quarterback competition with SEC play coming, and that scared me.
Cole, I want to go back to what you said earlier. You feel like Peyton Thorne. I think in the red zone they scored the 2-2. You feel like Peyton Thorne can get a first down when they need it, when it's 3rd and 4, when it's 4th and 2. Peyton Thorne can be in there. You don't have to put Robbie in there. That's why I say it feels forced. Robbie is such a good athlete that Hugh And these coaches are like, okay, well, he's got to play. So where is the right situation? Is it here? Is it 3rd and 4? Is it 4th and 2? Is it down here 1st and goal from the 3? When is the perfect opportunity to put him in? Maybe there's not. Maybe you let Peyton Thorne stay in. And then if it doesn't work time and time again, if consistently it's not working and you need something to figure out a way to get those extra 3 or 4 yards, but don't you want to know if the offense can pick up that first down? Don't you want to know if the offense can score a touchdown with Peyton Thorne under center before you start running Robbie Ashford out there?
Yep.
I mean, that's the only reason Robbie Ashford is in the game, right? Because you think he can do something that Peyton Thorne can't. You think the offense has a better success rate with Robbie Ashford under center in these situations than you do with Peyton Thorne. Otherwise, why in the hell would you send somebody else there? You think the offense has a better chance of success with with Robbie Ashford in this situation than you do Peyton Thorne. And again, Justin, like you said, Hugh Freeze knows better than us. So they've probably done this in scrimmage and in practice time and time again. And maybe that's why they keep putting him out there, because in those situations in practice and in scrimmages, they've had more success with Robbie in the game. We haven't been privy to that.
I've been doing a case study on Hugh Freeze for a while now because I've always liked him. I've always liked his style and his play calling. And you know me, I'm a nerd about that kind of stuff. So I look back on some of these quarterbacks he's had, like Chad Kelly and Bo Wallace, and some of these names he had, Malik Willis. These are guys that came in with a chip on their shoulder, all right? These are guys that didn't care. They were resilient. They didn't care what you threw at them. It didn't bother them, and it showed in the games. Now, I'm not at all saying that Peyton Thorne's not that way, or Robbie Ashford for that matter. I don't really know. I just know that it looks like they're both pressing, like he said. I think that's the perfect word, pressing. Pressing to get something done, and by doing so, they're out of their comfort zone. All right, Chad Kelly, Bo Wallace, Malik Willis, the list goes on. They didn't ever look like they were out of their comfort zone. They were comfortable all the time. Made a mistake, it didn't matter. We're good.
I'll get it next time.
And I always thought that was a reflection of Hugh Freeze and how he acts, and he's calm and comfortable all the time. It seems like, anyway. But I think the difference here maybe with Peyton Thorne is that he was the guy at Michigan State, never in question. It was never in question. He didn't have anybody nipping at his heels at Michigan State. That didn't happen. He was the guy. He was in every single game. He threw for whatever 300 yards a game or whatever he was doing, and it wasn't ever a question in his mind. Now it is, and I'm not saying he's not resilient, but this is brand new to him, okay? He ain't used to somebody being thrown in on 3rd down. He ain't used to somebody coming in and taking a whole drive, taking him out of rhythm. You saw in the UMass game, a lot of what he does is dependent on rhythm. He got in a rhythm against UMass and started hitting some throws that looked really nice. Take him out of the rhythm, he's not the same Peyton Thorne that I saw at Michigan State.
Yeah, this is the quote. I'm going to read you what Freeze said, because I even left out another important thing he said that surprised me. This is the quote. I do believe everyone in this building understands that you have to earn the right to maintain your playing time. That's every position, not just quarterback. When we move into these next few weeks, the picture will become clear as to, I think Peyton, obviously I've said this, he gives us our best chance to run the entire offense, and hopefully he'll start to take hold of that and showing that and improving that. At the same time, Holden and Robbie are nipping at his heels and wanting their chance too. These next few weeks, it'll play out, and we will know where we are for sure. I mean, so when you start saying everybody knows you got to earn your spot, and that's how you start to assess the quarterbacks, I just wonder how much of that was motivation for Peyton. Like, I'm gonna say, I hope Peyton reads this, and or how much of that was just, yeah, if he doesn't play well, we're going to go to somebody else. That was just I'm surprised that he said that 2 weeks into the season. I think it was kind of a challenge to Peyton, maybe a little bit, more so than, hey, if you don't play well against Samford, I'm pulling you. But that whole situation is just surprising. I'm sort of on the bandwagon of give Robbie his touches, but give him in either a 3rd and 2 where you've got where you're trying to run the ball. It needs to be very, very specific. I don't like Robbie getting snaps in the middle of the field or in Auburn territory. That just doesn't make sense. How are you going to say Peyton Thorne runs your offense the best, understands the offense the best, and put Robbie in when you're at the 40 or something? I don't get that.
I hate that. And that's why everything I've been saying is justification. My own personal choice of pick one, dude. I hate the 2-quarterback system, and I'm especially anywhere other than rare instances. I just want to see, man, and I think the quote was saying this, like, to me, that says, man, we're trying to figure out where Robbie's going to help us, and we're putting him in at different scenarios and at different times and different places, and it's just, man, maybe that's Peyton. Leave Peyton. Let's see if that works. That's why I would love to see Peyton Thorne play 3 quarters against Samford Saturday and play the game as though it were 12-10. Every possession, it's a 2-point game or something, and they're trying to score. I think Auburn, the team, the offense, Peyton Thorne needs that before they get into SEC play. They need to be comfortable and hold nothing back when it comes to Samford. Yeah,
it's very much a get-right game. Like, they need to start to get right on that offensive side with those quarterbacks.
If you haven't figured it out before College Station, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah. And then Georgia right after that. And you're not going to figure it out on the road, so then you're going to come back against Georgia having not figured it out either, most likely.
In front of a lot of recruits.
Well, when I hear him say he needs his touches, I think receiver, H-back, running back. Sorry, I do.
Robbie will quit before that happens.
Well, that would be on him because that's really where he could help the team, in my opinion. But that this is the way they're going with it right now, and at the end of the day, if you're not getting the job done, then I don't have a problem with that strategy personally. And it sounds like we're being a little bit critical of Hugh Freeze's plan and game plan and Montgomery's, and we are. But I also don't have a problem with the tough love of it. I don't have that. I think that's smart too. Okay, it's just you got to know your personnel, and I think that I actually put this on the board, and this is sort of something that it's a little bit of a thought experiment that I'm doing here. Obviously, Jeffrey, you and I talked to recruits, and they are just raving about how Hugh Freeze has been so involved with everything, especially the guys that are committed right now. I mean, he was a big reason for a lot of those, right?
Absolutely.
So a lot of effort was put into recruiting, a lot. And it should be. I mean, how are you gonna? That was the knock against Brian Harsin. How do you think you're gonna out scheme somebody without players? How do you think you're gonna do it? Explain that to me, right? So Hugh Freeze is doing it the opposite way. I'm all in on recruiting. I trust my coaches to handle everything. And his comments in the press conference this week told me that because he was like, I need to be a little more involved in the offensive meetings. I can't remember the exact quote, but he said that, right, Justin?
Yeah, he said he was involved with the defense a lot last week. He goes, I'm going to be more involved with the offense this week. So, you could read that 2 ways. You could read that as I'm concerned about the offense, or you could just say week 1 I was with the defense, week 2 I'm with the offense, and maybe it worked out that way. But, yeah, I would say after what you saw in Cal, he feels like he needs to be in there more often.
Yeah, so that told me, I've been on the recruiting side of things. Now I need to put my coaching headset on maybe a little bit more than I have been in recent weeks. And nobody's going to be upset with that. Nobody's going to knock on that. Everybody's very happy with the way he's recruited and should be. I mean, you have created a competitive team. At the end of the game against Cal, everything that wasn't working, it didn't matter. You had playmakers that you could go to. I mean, how many times have we seen that not be the case for Auburn? They didn't have anybody to go to. If the playbook ran out, you're done.
Yeah, certainly the last couple of years. Yeah, no shot.
But it's like, okay, well, we recruited this Fairweather guy, and he's matched up with the corner out there. Let's see what happens. Touchdown. Sometimes it's not that difficult. It can be real simple. It really can, especially when you have players. And I think that is why Hugh Freeze took the stance he did, and he was like, I'm going to be as involved in recruiting as I possibly can. And now he's saying this, I need to be – okay. I call it a yin and yang. There's a yin and yang to it. There's a way you got to figure it out. There's a ratio, I guess you could say, that he's still trying to learn in his first 2 games at Auburn. I mean, come on. There's still time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, there's a ton, not just Thorne. You got Freeze and trying to fit. I mean, Freeze has never not called plays.
Right.
So he's trying to figure out, okay, I hired Montgomery, and Philip Montgomery's got a good track record, but I want to be involved. So how much should I be involved? Should I be more involved in calling plays, or I think Freeze, and he admitted that Monday. He goes, it's hard. I've never done this before. It's hard. He said he called 3 plays against Cal. One was the fade to Rivaldo. So he's trying to figure out, how much do I get involved, how much I don't. But I'm with you, Jeffrey. I think that I don't know what they're going to do Saturday. If it were my preference, it would be Peyton Thorne plays at least 3 full quarters, no question, maybe into the 4th. It would almost be more of a pitch count. Like, I don't know about quarters. Like, he's getting, we're going to run up tempo. We need to try to hit 75 plays, and he needs to run 55 plus of them at least. And he needs to throw the ball 22 times or whatever. I would just set some things like he's got to do some of these things. Now, if the game starts changing, it gets weird or something, obviously do things within the game, run the ball, win the game, and all that good stuff. But there's got to be some things that he's got to do. And what you've seen from Peyton when he's been successful, the last drive against Cal and some of the good things he did against UMass, Cole and I talked about this on Sunday, specifically that last drive against Cal, up-tempo, back against the wall. He had to. It was almost like, well, I don't have a choice. We got to go win the game. And in a way that can create pressure. But I think for Peyton, it maybe took some pressure off. Like, well, I can't, I'm not going to overthink it. We got to make these throws. And I think that he performs pretty well in those situations. And so, yeah, you got to go out there and let him air it out and throw and make decisions. There's got to be more of the RPO game. That's a whole nother element of this thing that's messing it up, is you have an RPO offense and you didn't run enough of it. Even Freeze mentioned that against Saturday. He said, we didn't run enough RPO. I can't even really grade Peyton on how he did in the RPO because we didn't do enough of it. I can't even tell about his decision making. So here you have a large part of your offense, this RPO element, that you didn't even run for whatever reason, whether you don't trust him, whether you got away from it and you shouldn't have. They got to get back to some of these elements and figure out, can we run the RPO? Can Peyton run the RPO? Can the receivers run the RPO? Can we do this or not? Let's run up tempo and do it, and let this thing go a little bit for 3 quarters and let Peyton throw the ball 20 times and then start to make bigger decisions. What we've seen, you can't make big decisions on what we've seen, and hearing Freeze be so concerned about the quarterbacks after limited snaps, especially from Peyton, is just odd.
Justin, somebody in the media, I don't remember who it was, during the press conference asked him, what do you think about the RPOs from how did Peyton Thorne handle the RPOs, something like that. Literally before he could finish that question, Freeze cut him off. We didn't run enough RPOs. He cut him off in the middle of that question and said we didn't run enough. So that was really telling to me, especially the he's already been thinking about this. Like, he knew you were about to ask it. He's already thought about it. That's got to change.
You think that was a conversation he had with Philip Montgomery? We didn't run enough RPOs.
Sure.
Give me the sheet.
Sure. Now, I think he trusts Philip Montgomery as a play caller. And by the way, I've had to, when I do the game breakdowns on this and the play scripts and stuff, I've been going to this website to learn about some of these passing concepts they're running. Some of this stuff is pretty advanced. I mean, it's stuff that, look, when I broke down Gus Malzahn games, I knew everything. It was easy. I knew exactly what he was running. I knew every
tree was elementary. That passing tree was like curl, dig, fly.
Yeah. It's not like that, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more advanced. They're actually hitting on some of that stuff. Peyton Thorne made a great read on the throw to Shane Hooks. He just made a bad throw.
Yeah.
So the offense, I don't have a problem with the play calling. I think it's pretty good. I really do.
And I agree with you, Cole. I don't think, and I was going to say this is on a positive note, I don't think that there is an issue. From what I can tell, this is just my opinion. I don't think there is, or probably even will be, an issue between Freeze and Montgomery. I think those two guys are quality human beings, quality individuals that don't have, when it comes to what they're trying to do, I don't see that being a butting head the way that Brian Harsin and Mike Bobo butted heads from like the beginning. I don't see that as this. I think Freeze brought him in. I think Montgomery is happy with where he's at his career. He's going to call plays. Like I think those guys will either figure it out, but I don't see it as an issue of Freeze taking over play calling or them that becoming some big issue where they don't like each other. I don't see that right now. I think they'll work together pretty well. It's just a matter of whether they're going to figure out what the proper rotation is, or do we, whatever that looks like. But
it was always an issue with Gus too, with him and Rhett. And it was
right.
Always who's going to call them. Oh, I'm not going to call plays this year. Oh yeah, I'm going to take it back over. Oh, I'm going to do. Oh, this is what I was made to do. I'm going to call. This is what got me here. I'm going to call plays. It was like back and forth every other year with Gus.
Yeah. And I think the thing that will probably keep Hugh from doing that, we kind of know the future, is NIL and portal and all these other things that you have to now do as a head coach. That might be the thing that keeps Freeze from jumping back into calling plays in a year or two, is like, are these added things you have to do as a head coach that almost make it. I mean, there's coaches that do it, but man, it's really, really difficult.
You brought up a great point, Justin. You're talking about the transfer portal and Auburn not really knowing where Peyton Thorne is. That's kind of what you get when you get a kid that arrives late in the summer to be your starting quarterback. This is you still don't know what you've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and tall Shane Hook's in there, right? He wasn't there in the spring. Tall Shorter in there. He wasn't there in the spring. I mean, these are guys that you need to play well that weren't in the spring, or still trying to figure things out too. Jeremiah Cobb in there. Mm-hmm. Still learning, and you just, that's why I said before the season, this team is going to look so different late October, November, obviously when the Iron Bowl rolls down, but this team is going to look so much different, and it should be a positive different. It shouldn't be a negative different because there's so many new pieces. So I don't know. We'll see offensively. 4 turnovers, that obviously can't happen when we talk about the offense. That crushes your plays and your drives, and I'm not going to harp on that. Let's see if that's a trend. For now, it's just a one-game thing. Let's see if that becomes a trend. Until it does, we don't have to treat it like one. Hugh Freeze thought the running game could have been a lot better if not for the turnovers and them losing a lot of plays. He thought the running game was pretty decent. Praised Jeremiah Cobb again. I think everything there. You just got to figure out the quarterback rotation, get some confidence there, complete some balls. The good thing coming out of that Cal game, and I wrote that I still think we need to take a step back from the defense, but there are some good signs there. Now, UMass and Cal are not offenses that you can really predict a lot from. Those offenses were horrible last year. UMass was dead last year in scoring. Cal was 96th. So, I'm not going to go overboard and say this Auburn defense is something special, but I did like that they stepped up and stopped the run against Cal. We didn't think they necessarily could do that. They did. And
True.
Eugene Asante is got to be the revelation of this defense so far. I mean, you knew Donovan Coughlin was a good player. Keontae Scott, Marcus Harris, DJ James. You knew some of these guys were pretty good players. Asante is the one that, outside of good reviews in camp, you're like, well, hear good things, but the way he's playing is a huge deal for that defense.
Huge. Yeah, and Justin, all those factors you just mentioned make me feel a lot better about the win, leaving California with a win, because I have been, I'm not going to say scared to death because it doesn't affect me either way, but concerned about that game for a long time, especially the timing of it and all the weird things that were about it. I thought the timing of it was really, really bad for what Auburn would be going through at this time. And well, you saw it was a weird one. I think they'll bounce back a little bit and get things cleaned up going forward, especially being back at home. I think this game's going to be good for Auburn. I really do. I think the offense is going to look clean again, because that to me is the number one thing they're going to work on. We'll get to the explosive plays thing. Let's just get things clean. That's step number one this week. and I think they'll handle it.
Was UMass clean?
Yeah, it was. Even now, okay, it was even clean when he was putting Robbie in a couple times. I thought it stayed clean. Some of his stuff was good. By the way, Robbie had a 10-yard run, a very good first down run against Cal. It was when they went with two backs. It was Cobb and Hunter, and or maybe Cobb and Austin. Either way, it was a zone read. He got a good run off of that one. I feel like that should be mentioned. I feel like Cam Stutz deserves a mention, dude. He was pancaking folks out there. Him and Dylan Wade. Every time I put my eyes on Dylan Wade when I'm watching back on the film, he is doing something good.
Yeah, they're aggressive.
Very rare that he's not. So I agree with Freeze that the run game was absolutely working and was on its way to being a lot more successful had the turnovers not happened.
Yeah,
I think, Cole, that's why it was so disappointing to see against Cal was that UMass was so clean, and you're going, man,
yeah,
right out the gate, and then you get to Cal, and it's like, what the hell is this? Like, this is complete 180 from what we saw 7 days ago. Like, who are these people?
Well, hey, look, and we've been talking about the play calling, but turnovers, I don't care how good of a play caller you are, that'll stop it. You go ahead and turn the ball over and see how easy it is.
Yeah, the where is it at here?
Did you see the stat where a team on the road commits 4 turnovers and fails to pick up 15 first downs was 1 in 162?
Yeah,
and that one was Auburn.
What did Freeze say in the press conference, Justin? I'm barely remembering it.
He was trying to quote that stat. It was like 1 in 65. Or he was trying to quote that stat. There's another stat that's similar that was a team. The last time a team had 230 or less in offense, 12 first downs or less, and turned the ball over 4 times, and one was Troy in 2001 against Mississippi State. So 22 years since somebody did that on offense and won a game.
Again, I said this the other night, but how does that make you feel if you're a Cal fan? Right. I mean, my God, dude.
Did you see the video from the Cal fan? Just trashed.
I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch
10 minutes. He just trashed Auburn. And all the Cal fans were getting in the comments like, hey, I was at that game. Like, this is not true at all. Auburn fans were great.
No, imagine that.
He's been a douche. He's been a douchebag trying to look for
fake news out of California.
Fake news. Shocker. I saw somebody reply. They were like, I don't know, man. Like, our school's got more astronauts. They're like, Auburn's got more astronauts than Cal and has the CEO of Apple and Academy Award winners or whatever. But I'm like, dude, we have more astronauts. I mean, that's but yeah, go ahead. But keep on.
He went as far to say that a degree from Auburn means nothing.
Well, comments mean nothing is what means nothing.
It was so silly. It was.
What was I about to say? You were talking about Freeze.
Yeah. I think I interrupted you.
No, Jeffrey, you were saying.
Oh, you were going to say about the stat that Hugh was trying to come up with that stat that 1 in 62. Oh no, you finished that one because you said 12 first downs, less than 240 rushing yards, and 4 turnovers. The last team to do that was Troy in 2001. That was 20-something years ago. And I said something about imagine being a freaking Cal fan. I just remember that.
I can't remember what it was now. Y'all can talk about something. Let's said something on Monday that I was trying to remember.
Well, we'll need to wrap it up here in a minute anyway. So let's think about what's best case scenario Saturday for Auburn. And listen, by the way, you said this to begin the show, Justin, but here we are talking about this, that, and complaining about this, that, being critical about this and that, and Auburn somehow 2-0.
Yeah.
And going to be 3-0 in 72 hours. Which is what you had to be.
Going into A&M undefeated was something that we talked about was important.
Yep.
And honestly, I thought, it was just as easy that they went in 2-1 to A&M. I mean, you have to play Samford still, but we feel good about that game.
If they lose to Samford, just cancel the season.
Tell you what, though.
Well, that's what that Cal game was. There was almost nothing to gain. It was one of those games where you just can't lose. You can't lose. Winning it is like the bare minimum. You can't lose that game and try to get to 6. this season would have taken a dramatic turn for the worst if they would have come out with an L instead of a W. So it's like you got a W. It's not a conference game, but you got a W. It's a non-conference. Now you did like I was literally on the burn the tape. Like,
sure.
I mean, watch it. Obviously, coaches, do your job, watch it. But I mean, I would be like, we're gonna watch this like once and then I'm burning it. Like we
burn the tape. Just keep the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Maybe the entire team, coaching staff, they felt this immense pressure that, hey, if we lose this game, do you understand how bad that is for our schedule and our season and our recruiting and everything? Is it possible that all of that pressure was just weighing down on everybody, and it was just tight? Everybody was tight because of that. And I guess it could be possible. I don't know. By the way, this line, 46 points.
Some people don't even have a lineup. Like I've looked at some other sites.
I don't see one. I couldn't find one Sunday when I'm looking for the line on Sunday.
I was on Vegas Insider, Zach, and Zach. I'm looking at no line on Vegas Insider, but Zach's got us one from. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. VegasInsider.com. Either way, Auburn we'll go with 46, and the over/under is what, 64? Yes, 46 and 64. We'll go with that. Zach in the back knows more than we do about that. So
that's a big line after seeing Auburn's offense look terrible.
Oh, I know what I was going to say, by the way. Jeffrey was talking about the offense, and Hugh Freeze said something that was kind of alarming too on Monday, which is he goes, I thought we were going to score 30 points. You were talking about whoa, where did this offense come from? Freeze was like, I thought we were going to go in there and score 30 points. That was shocking to hear him be like, I thought we were going to go in there and play really well and score 30 or 40 points. And they barely got the 14. So you talk about a guy that was shocked. I don't know if that's like, dude, you're not in touch with – I don't know. That's like they practiced away and they showed up a certain way Saturday, or that's a pretty big disconnect if you think you're going to roll in there and score 35 and you have one of the worst offensive performances we've seen. You barely get to 14. Like, ooh.
I think that gives the three of us credit, honestly, because we thought it was going to be a shootout.
I thought Auburn could go in there and score 35, 38.
I said Auburn would have to score 30 to win the game.
And what I mean by shootout is Cal was going to score.
Yeah.
They scored 10 points.
Yeah. We thought that too.
So we were on the same page.
They left 16 points on the board. I think it was 16.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's a Cal. I was on Twitter, and some Cal guy responded to an Auburn. He was mad about the win. He's like, well, y'all wouldn't have won if we would have missed a field goal. And I responded. I said, well, 3 field goals to be exact. You missed 3.
and have one come off the board.
It's like
all right, Jeffrey, you asked what would be successful Saturday. I obviously a win. To me, it's got to be. I don't know what it's going to look. I don't know exactly how to define it, but you've got to start to see some offensive identity, and that is a combination of Peyton Thorne playing well, pushing it down the field, and looking like starting to show semblances of an efficient passing offense, and Peyton Thorne looking the part, getting multiple series. I don't know how it looks, but you kind of know it when you see it. You're like, okay, there's tempo, there's confidence, there's some different receivers getting involved. There's some different passing concepts that we're seeing get completed. There's some pushing the ball. There's 10-yard completion, 12-yard completion, some of that type stuff. You got to start to see that happen because it just hasn't outside of a couple of throws. I mean, the Jay Fair touchdown against UMass, the fade to Javaris Johnson against UMass, the third down back shoulder throw to Fairweather, which was kind of a desperation type play, but there hasn't been a lot of pushing it down the field and effectiveness. So I want to see that. And then the RPO game mixed in. I mean, if Freeze wants to see more of that, let's see that. It's a big part of their offense. So to me, that's what you've got to come. That's the biggest thing is some type of you going, okay, I'm seeing some semblances of what this offense needs to look like. The other part is just getting healthy. You got SEC play next week, specifically on defense. And if they don't play, they don't play. But you got to start to see – I want to see Jalen McLeod. I want to see Nehemiah Pritchett. I want to see J.D. Rim. Those 3 guys have got to be out there and get healthy. Nick Marner's been a little banged up on the other side. But McLeod, Rim, Pritchett, Kaufman is kind of a game-time decision with a concussion against Cal. They got to get healthy on defense. Those guys need to be out there Sunday, and I need to see them pretty healthy so that another week they'll be good to go against A&M. So that's it for me. Offensive identity, start to see something there, and then I want to see some of these guys on defense look like they're getting healthy because they need them when SEC play starts.
I've got a quick one. This is what I want to see. I want to see 200 yards passing from Peyton Thorne. I want to see him complete 60% of his passes. I want to see a 100-yard receiver. I want to see a 100-yard rusher. And the defense maybe giving up a late touchdown like they did against UMass. Other than that, a dominant game from the defense, if not a shutout.
I think it's really simple. You win the turnover margin. So +1, +2 in the turnover margin. Don't turn the ball over and get 1 or 2 on defense, and everything else takes care of itself, in my opinion.
I like it. Yeah,
well,
no turnovers after that last week. Yeah,
yeah, I think that's the bottom line. That's what
I'm going to add that.
I really do. I think that was the leading cause of everything. I don't think it was play calling. I don't think it was that Peyton Thorne was the worst quarterback of all time in that game. I think it was turnovers. Some of those things need to be better, of course, but it all boils down to turnovers for me.
Yeah, fix that for sure. All right, Auburn Stanford, 6 o'clock Saturday night, ESPN Plus, SEC Network Plus. Auburn should get the homecoming win and enter conference play 3-0, but there's obviously some things they need to clean up and get better at. I think Freeze knows that. We all know that. So it should be a good game. Stanford, not a bad FCS team. Chris Hatcher, good offensive coach. They're going to be overmatched, but they're not. Hell, if you put Samford and UMass on the field, I don't know. UMass will win, but I don't think it'd be a blowout.
Hey, Zach in the back was right. I went and checked the film on his boy Michael Hyers, quarterback at Samford. Dude is ridiculous. He had a 77% completion rating last year with 34 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So far, he's got 6 touchdowns this year, no interceptions. So he can play.
Yeah, Samford ranked 18th. Zach says Samford ranked 18th in FCS, and that's they're a quality FCS team that for a couple quarters might do a little bit, but Auburn's obviously going to push them around as this game goes on.
Yeah,
wearing Navy. What else is going on? It's an all Navy game, and then we get ready to go to College Station. Make sure to go to auburnlive.com. Check out all the football recruiting coverage, all that good stuff. Are they still doing the?
Yes, $1 for 1 month.
$1 a month and half off for an annual.
It's only if you're a member, though. It's $1 1 month. You get in, you try us out. Make sure you like us, and you will. And then it's all in, baby.
Yeah, so go subscribe. Go check out the app. For anybody that's listening that's a member or doesn't have the app, go check out the app in the App Store. That's pretty cool. I like it. It's similar to mobile, but to me it works a little bit quicker. Just hit the app versus trying to go through Safari. And then obviously you can navigate to the rankings in the app way, way quicker. You can pop over to player rankings, team rankings for football and basketball. So make sure you go download the app as well. All right, guys, we'll see everybody on Saturday down in Auburn. Should be a really nice day. By the time that game kicks off, probably be in the low 70s, something like that. So it should be good. A good day for some football. Go to auburnlive.com again. Check us out. Appreciate it, everybody, for joining us. For Jeffrey and Cole, I'm Justin. We'll see you next time.